So the reason not to talk to Kanye, I think you should have had the conversation you had with him in private. That's great. And I have got no criticism of what you said had it been in private. In pub, I just thought you're not doing him a favor. If he's mentally ill, right? If he's in the middle of a manic episode or, I'm not a clinician, but I've heard it said of him that he is bipolar.
I contend that psychiatry, and I distinguish sharply between psychiatry and neurology. Neurology deals with disease of the brain. I contend that what we now call psychiatry deals not with any kind of disease, but with human conflict, or what I have sometimes called problems in living. It deals, as Dr. Vysotsky already alluded to, for example, with people who behave deviantly or violently. Now, that what we call violent behavior, after all, is conflict. Somebody does not like the violence.
Well, clearly, Reckful is mentally ill. I can't think of a better definition of if you kill yourself. Mentally ill.
We can totally agree. I think no one is questioning that Reckful was mentally ill.
I want to talk about the way he was mentally ill.
Sure.
You rent out an apartment for an expensive apartment, just so hoping that your friends, basically that you can pay your friends to be your friend.
Yeah.
But today, suicide is blamed on depression or some other kind of
somebody else,
mental illness.
Somebody else. But this again is deeply ingrained because remember, people ought to remember that only 100 years ago, if you were a good Catholic in a serious Catholic community or Jew, and if you killed yourself, the priest or the rabbi would not bury you. It would not give you a religious ceremony. It's a organized Western religion that first adopted this idea that anybody who kills himself is ipso facto, posthumously. They didn't know anything about it. It was mentally ill at the time. Because they don't want to punish. The whole issue of responsibility has been, psychiatry is the enemy of human agency and responsibility and liberty, unfortunately.
So, that seems like a key point.
It's a key
enemy of human agency, of
human agency.
And therefore freedom.
Therefore freedom.
They define it out of existence.
The mental illness component is its own thing.
Yeah.
I don't pretend to understand what's going on with him. But insofar as that's the reason he's saying what he's saying, do not put this guy on camera and let millions people see.
Sorry, on that point real quick, I had a bunch of conversation with him offline, and I didn't get a sense of mental illness. That's why I chose to sit down.
Okay.
And I didn't get it. I mean, mental illness is such a...
Mental illness refers to something that a person does. Real disease refers to something that a person has. Consider this yet another way. It takes one person to have a real disease. It takes two people to have a mental illness. If you're alone on an island, you could develop a real disease like cancer or heart disease, but you cannot develop a mental illness such as hyperactivity or schizophrenia. This is because mental illness is always diagnosed on the basis of some sort of social conflict. When people do something that others find objectionable, they can be diagnosed as mentally ill.
ADHD is a mental illness. It is a disorder. Or what are we saying mental illness is?
You could ask people to define mental illness, and no one could. One can only give examples of it, like homosexuality, on which the American Psychiatric Association voted, as you know, that it's no longer a disease. It's only a disease if you don't like it. No, but
even if somebody puts their whole family in a blender and then drinks it, I can't say that person's mentally ill because I haven't talked to them.
But when he shows up in a GIMP hood on Alex Jones's podcast, I mean, either that's more, genius performance in his world, or he's unraveling further.
I wouldn't put that under mental illness.
What I think is illness is if you're 46 years old, you make $600,000 or $800,000 a year, you're married, you have 2 kids, you have a wife who's loving, faithful, you are tall, you're handsome, you're successful, and you want to kill yourself every single day.
But now psychiatrists insist that these people are ill. The psychiatrists who I presume testify for the Yorkshire Ripper genuinely believe that the Yorkshire Ripper kills women because he has a disease like cancer. So this is how metaphors become real. This is why I think that psychiatry is very much like a religion. It's one thing to talk about Jews as Christ killers, as some kind of metaphor, and to believe actually that Jews are killing Christ because he's still alive in the ceremony of the Mass.
Well,
so this becomes a very, very live issue. Psychiatrists believe that mental illness is just as real as that table.
You mentioned Dr. Thomas Zoss. He doesn't believe in the notion of mental illness.
I don't either.
But nothing could be more absurd than that.